if your ex started dating someone right after you guys broke up, understand that this rebound relationship will never measure up with what you had. In this video, I'm going to share with you why. Because it's important for you to understand this. Rather than looking at the surface level of analyzing he or she's dating someone now, i.e. he or she's moved on and will forget me and we have no future together, it's more complex than that. He or she is dating someone now in order to avoid dealing with the breakup, to build a relationship that has no future, and later realize what they've lost. Let me explain everything after the jingle.
IGetMyExBack.com. Everyone deserves a second chance.
And so first element is the lack of emotional depth. Rebound relationship, they often, if not always, lack emotional depth. Because the reason people start a new relationship quickly after a breakup is to distract themselves from the breakup. So the reason they are attracted to this partner is not because of their qualities, it's not because it's potentially because they are the same person, so they don't have to change anything, or they are the opposite person of you. And they feel like, oh, it didn't work out with this type of person, so I'm going to take the opposite. And so what will happen is that what keeps them closer is a very superficial bond. And superficial bonds, they can't replace meaningful connections, which is potentially what you had together. Because if you're watching this video, you know what you had. You know you had a meaningful, loving relationship with that person. You just can't figure out how they could date someone quickly, so quickly after you guys broke up. And I explain you why. First is because they want a distraction. There's another element is also around feelings. When you don't want to deal with the aftermath of the breakup, those unresolved feelings, or the baggage of the relationship, jumping into a new relationship is a perfect way to do that. Perfect way to dismiss, to avoid looking at those things. It's not the perfect way to heal. It's not the perfect way to learn from a breakup. It's the perfect way not to have the negative emotions, the difficulty in terms of the social interaction, in terms of status. Because, don't talk to me about the breakup. I'm dating someone now. What you don't, I'm not sad, right? I'm dating someone now. I'm winning the breakup. So what will happen is very often you'll have comparison later on. And sorry, my cat is eating. It's quite noisy. Between the new relationship and what you had. Another element that explains why rebound relationship fail is the speed of the rebound. As I said, it's about how can I avoid dealing with things? How can I avoid being lonely? And so I will quickly rebound, because a rebound relationship is characterized by starting a new relationship between 0 and 3 months after a breakup. If you think about it, it's impossible to find someone where you have meaningful connection with in less than 3 months. And it probably took you months, if not years, to find your ex, to figure out, to work things out with him or her, to have different experiences, to be able to find that I want to spend more time with this person. And so what will happen is that if you make quick decisions, if it takes you a couple of months to find someone, obviously you don't have time to reflect on the breakup, and you don't have time to find a relationship that's based on strong foundations. It's more about impulsivity than depth of feelings or connection. And what will happen mechanically is that there's going to be an element of nostalgia and comparison. Because this new relationship has no foundation, no really strong foundation, they're going to start comparing this new relationship with what you had, but also comparing, and that's why it's important for you to really pay attention to your behavior right now. Because you're also comparing with what you're doing. If you're interfering, if you come across as needy, if you come across as desperate, etc., they will always feel like, okay, this new relationship was the right decision. If they have a very positive feeling about the relationship, especially after a few months, if you went no contact, if they had time to process things without you, the positive memories will resurface. what happens in our brain is when we process information, we tend to remember positive things and forget about the negative things, especially when they are highly emotional. And so the emotional element, and so the relationship, the loving relationship, will tend to be amplified and magnified, magnifying the positive traits. And what will happen is that they will compare those positive memories with what they have right now. At the beginning, what they have is amazing. At some stage, what they have will be more complex. They're going to get frustrated. They're going to see some of the shortcomings of that new relationship. They're going to see the limitation of this relationship. And when it happens, mechanically, it's automatic. They're going to start comparing this with what they had. Another element that explains why rebound relationship fail is simply because of the lack of genuine compatibility. As we discussed, they chose that person quickly in order to avoid to distract themselves. And therefore, it's based on availability. Kind of, you're here, you're single, let's get together. And it's, as I said, it takes a lot of time to meet a right partner. It takes years of experiencing, of figuring out what we want, of comparing. If you date someone right after a breakup, potentially the first person you date, and you end up in a relationship with you, trust me, it's not going to work out, right? Because it's not a well-matched partner. It's not going to work out. If you're starting, for example, if you broke up with your partner and you want to start dating, I can guarantee you that the first date that you're going to have with the first person you'll date, you won't get into a relationship with that person. That's part of you have to also accept this. It's never going to work out. Statistically, it's not likely. And so what will happen is like this new rebound person was just like the available person that allowed them to escape from this breakup. So it's superficial. What's superficial don't last. Another element is around what can we learn from this breakup. And I think that's something you need to understand. You need to also act upon. What you have to do right now, yes, you need to figure out whether your ex will, or the relationship that your ex is having right now will collapse or not. But it's also about what can you do to improve? What can you do to show your partner, your ex, that things could be different? Your ex won't get back with you if when they break up with this new person, they realize that, okay, what you offer me is what we had. And I don't want this, I rejected this because it's not working, right? And so it's important for you to understand what the things you need to implement, because they're not going to do the work. And so what will happen very often, that's what happens with all of my clients where their ex is starting a new relationship. They do the work, they're more secure, they're more confident, they have an amazing life. In a way, everything is aligned to have a new partner. So they give their partner another chance when this new relationship collapses. And that new partner feels like, wow, hold on. I was so wrong. There's kind of a shocking element of looking at you having had those negative assumptions about what they left, seeing all the progress that you've made, see all the changes, versus this, when they left, they went into a bubble, kind of a fantasy mode, not facing reality of things. But the problem is, in those cases, is it happens sometimes with my clients, that my clients, they don't want to get back with their ex because they feel they haven't learned anything. I don't want to be with that person anymore because they are not doing the work. It's not that they feel superior, but they feel like, well, this breakup helped me to understand things about myself. And now I have different set of needs, or I can express those needs that I couldn't express when I was in a relationship. And I know what I want. I know what I don't want. I know how to establish boundaries. And what you're giving me is actually not what I want. And so it helps you to raise the level of expectation of, now if you want to get me back, we are shifting roles. Now if you want to get me back, you have to do the work. You have to meet me where I am. And so that's the value of self-improvement and working on yourself after a breakup. And the problem is your ex won't do that work, right? Because again, if I'm in a relationship, that means I don't need to do any work because I'm in a relationship. I fix things, right? I'm dating someone, so I have no problem. And that thing will catch them up at some stage. Another element is also because of the lack of strong foundation, there's a lot of emotional instability in those relationships because there's no consistency, because there's no stability. Anytime, and in a way, your partner was attracted to those highs and lows, to those roller coaster element. But the problem is that you can't be in a sustainable relationship if you are in that roller coaster mode all the time. So because it's volatile, because it's difficult, because you have a lot of highs and a lot of lows, at some stage, your partner, their partner, your ex and their partner will be fed up of those lows. And we want to solidify things, but the problem is that they can't because they're not compatible. Another element is also external validation. So as I said, you get into a new relationship and you feel like, oh, I'm winning the breakup. Don't talk to me about the breakup. I'm dating someone, so I have no problem. It's a way to prove themselves, to prove others that they are worthy of love, that they don't need any help, that they can win this relationship. And this ego boost is very powerful at the beginning. But then as the relationship sort of solidify and becomes more of a compassionate element, then they feel like, what am I doing here? Am I true to myself? I'm really happy in this relationship. Is it really what I want? Right? Because the external validation helps at the beginning. And again, what you have to understand is when you analyze, when you assess this relationship, don't think that what you see and what they experience in the first 3 months is what will be happening for the rest of the relationship. That's just one very much like excitement-driven, dopamine-driven, ego boost type of phase that doesn't last. And after 3 months, after 6 months, usually things collapse. And it takes about a few months for people to realize that's not what I want. So it's kind of a 3 months, very intense, 3 months of like consolidation and feel like kind of a lot of friction. Then 3 other months was like, I want to exit this relationship. And then depending on people, they leave the relationship before a year. And lastly, there's a pressure to succeed. When you start a relationship, especially if you're in your 40s, 50s, you don't want to start a relationship just to be in a relationship. You want things to succeed. You have expectations. You left a very long-term relationship. And of course, you just want to have a long-term relationship like anyone else around you. And so the problem is that as you have this pressure to replace the other, you realize, hold on, what am I trying to measure up? A long-term relationship where we had a lot of compatibility, where we have a strong history, where we had like amazing moments together with this new shiny object. And I'm trying to force myself into a long-term relationship. And I get frustrated because I don't get what I want. Because in so many ways, we are so different. We are not compatible. And again, it's amplifying the comparison element of these new things that I'm trying to mold around my needs, usually around my insecurities, and something that was, maybe not working, but we had something. And so we had something, and it was not working. When you have something that's not working, when you don't have a history, the comparison is very easy. And so that pressure will force them to, again, reflect. And so towards the end, there's always this element of comparison. And if they reach out, if you're in touch with them, the point is not to showcase and prove them wrong. And no. You just have to present yourself. Let them take the lead in a way. They have to figure out themselves that what they're having now is meaningless. And what they have to work towards is repairing what you guys had. It's very important. That's the only thing that matters. If you have any questions about that, let me know in the comment section. If you want to work with me, I'll put a link to work with me on WhatsApp. 20% of my clients are in that case. Their exes are dating someone. Most, 90% of the time they get back together. The point is like, what are you going to do between now and when this relationship falls apart? You can do it on your own, don't get me wrong. I'm not forcing you to do anything. But I'm a bit like this. Whenever I have something to achieve, whenever I have a plan, I hate to do it on my own, and it's very hard for me to feel accountable. So if you want to have someone in your team just to handle those next few months in order for you to work on yourself, to figure out how to communicate with your ex if you're in touch with them, the things that you have to work in terms of emotional regulation, in terms of what we call working models, and so on and so forth, have a look in the description. I'll put a link to join me on WhatsApp. And if you have any other questions or if you have anything you want to share, let me know as well in the comments. I'll see you next time. Take care.